What's that metronome I hear? Perhaps the end is drawing near. You never hear the shout.
Welcome back to TWS Live, and we are going to have a chat now, which is stuff which some people may find a little bit close to the knuckle, a bit close to the bone, and we apologise if you do. This is no axe grinding on any point from anyone's side here. We want to discuss sexuality in wrestling, and it's really come to a head with the Drew McIntyre situation. But before we get there, we are joined on the line by someone who we thought was missing in action, but he's here. Steve Grieve, welcome, sir.
That'll be me. Stevie K is still in the house, even if he's not in the studio.
Now, I know that this kind of conversation or this kind of talking point came up last week and when the car journey that me and you had with regard to sexuality in wrestling, and it's been recently, as on SmackDown this week, with Drew McIntyre being fired, in air quotes, he's going to be repackaged as an arrogant Playboy gimmick. According to some fans at the last couple weekends SmackDown at live events, Drew's been acting more sexually, flirting with male fans in the crowd, even blowing kisses at some. He was stopped in the middle of a match with Ezekiel Jackson to comb his hair. So it's looking like he's going into some kind of bi or gay Playboy kind of gimmick. And we want to discuss it, and this kind of then prompted me and you, Steve, to kind of discuss sexuality in wrestling generally.
Yeah, it was definitely a talking point. It's something that, like you said, me and you discussed last week on the way to the studio in a lot of depth as well. It's something that we both wanted to cover.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about why it is that you wanted to cover it. I mean, wrestling is known for having some very outlandish characters. I mean, the ones that kind of come to mind WWE-wise, of course, is Goldust, Billy and Chuck, Rico, and of course, maybe now the whole Drew McIntyre gimmick. But what is it about any, if you're gay, lesbian, bi, whatever your sexual orientation is, what is it that's kind of struck a chord with you as to why you really wanted to take this to a public domain?
Well, I myself personally, I think it's interesting the fact that wrestling promoters, whether it be WWE or TNA, I'm not going to include Ring of Honor because as far as I'm aware, Ring of Honor have never brought a character in of that kind of standard or level. They feel the need that they've got to reach into this kind of like gimmick to push someone. And does it actually help? Do we need these kind of gimmicks in wrestling?
But what's the difference to having a gimmick storyline like Goldust compared to someone who calls himself a dead man?
Is it not more to do with the fact that this is almost kind of promoting something about their personal life as well in some cases? Orlando Jordan within TNA was pushed as quite openly a bisexual gimmick and portrayed almost to the extent where it was to the extreme. The stereotype was turned right up instead of it just being a subtle undertone. You know, if you go to work, for sake of argument, and you're gay, you're lesbian, or you're bi, do all your co-workers need to know? Do you need to be brandished wearing pink, like Rico, flamboyant dress?
You could have said the same thing about Bret Hart, but they didn't. That was never portrayed.
No,
and he wore pink and black.
But he wasn't portraying a gay character.
Well, technically, neither was Rico. Billy and Chuck were. Rico was portraying a manager who was a bit flamboyant. When he teamed up with Jackie...
And Charlie Haas.
And Charlie Haas, yeah. Steve, what's your opinion on this?
I think at the end of the day, I mean, I think anyone, if they're given a gimmick, they need to run with it at the end of the day. I think maybe this is, caught a lot of people's more eyes because of the fact that it is something that could be aimed at being some sort of sexuality angle. I think when you take a character that's already mentioned, like Goldust, that actually launched his career and made his career bigger than I think a lot of people thought it was ever going to take off as. The reason it worked for Goldust is because he walked down the aisle with a very good-looking, attractive woman, but would still play this sort of sexual role in the ring to sort of throw off maybe more his opponents, and that's why that angle worked more for him. With the Drew McIntyre gimmick, from what I've heard from house shows, is the fact that the character is playing both sexes, but is making more of a point towards the men, and I don't know whether it is in a sexual angle or showing some sort of bisexuality, or the fact is that he's just saying that I'm better than you.
But could you ever say, I mean, these gimmicks, that whether they're right or wrong, whether you believe them or not, do they actually really help get a star over? Goldust has been
I think-
continually painted with this gimmick ever since, and they've tried to repackage him in several different personas over the year. They tried to bring him back as just Dustin Reynolds. They also tried to, in TNA, tried to do him as Black Rain. He could never get away from this flamboyant gimmick, and now he's back in WWE, basically doing the same gimmick again when he's on screen.
No, well, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, if that's something that's going to work, and if you think at the end of the day, he has pretty much had a 20-odd year career in WWE, a few spurts over in WCW, NWA, and TNA, he's pretty much built a very long career in WWE by using that gimmick. And if that's something that's going to work, then that's one you're going to use.
Okay.
Val Venus, for example, his gimmick worked, and when they tried to change it, he faltered because the gimmick he worked. It was still a sexual angle. He was an on-screen porn star.
But
the
Val
angle
Venus,
works.
you can't really put Val Venus into this sort of argument because, like, as you said, Val Venus was portraying a porn star. He wasn't portraying a gay or sexual angle. I mean, let's go to some of the comments in the chat room from Melly. I don't give a toss if people are gay or not. It doesn't get you over being a good or a bad wrestler. The problem is, she continues, is that gay storylines in professional wrestling are done to take the mickey.
And I think she's almost hit the nail on the head there. Every gay angle you see, or any kind of like sexuality angle you see with regard to same sex, is done with very much tongue in cheek. It's like we can't take it seriously. We don't believe it's serious, so we're going to do the tongue in cheek thing. And I'm not just talking men on men. We've seen situations when they've done Dawn Marie and Tori Wilson in a lesbian angle. So has Sable and Tori Wilson had a similar angle. TNT on TNA.
Okay, let's go to that. We're talking about Billy and Chuck.
Yeah.
We're talking about Goldust. I want to get back to Goldust in a minute because there's something I want to come to with him. You talked about a lesbian angle then. Okay. Is it a bit of a hypocritical society in terms of wrestling fans, wrestling bookers, wrestling writers, TV writers, okay, that they do a lot of lesbian storylines, lesbian angles in, soap operas or Walking Dead or whatever it is that you watch. But yet, if you do a gay storyline, the critics will come down on you, the censors will come down on you, but a lesbian storyline is okay? Do you see where I'm going?
Yeah. It's that old adage, and I think it's I'm a straight guy, but I know that you see a lot of blokes kind of go, oh hey, two girls together, oh hey, kind of thing. It's that kind of thing, but it's almost portrayed in the press as something fun and sexy, and it's flamboyant and fun. But in some cases, and I'm not generalising, in some cases the gay lifestyle, two blokes is frowned upon. And what makes that any wrong where two women are right?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Steve's had to go off the line due to some connection issues. So, Dan, it's back to us two. I think, ECW had the first lesbian angle in wrestling with Kimona and Buna McGill.
They did, yes.
But they got thrown off the network.
But does it come back to the whole angle again of sex sells?
Maybe.
The gay sex doesn't?
Is that hypocritical though? Do you think, seriously now, I mean, we're not taking this serious debate, but do you think that because of the fact it's a locker room atmosphere, the boys
all lads together
in the back, there's homophobia? I mean, like you, I'm a straight guy. I'm in a loving relationship, but if you were in a locker room environment like that, like the WWE, like TNA, Ring of Honor, for whatever company, even a football team, okay, and you had someone in the books, in the roster with you that was openly gay, even though you don't act like it in normal, do you think that your perception or the way you treat them or the way you would look at them would be different and frowned upon because of the fact that they are openly gay? Chris Kanyon being a prime example.
Chris Kanyon was a great example, and he still cites that, up to his dying day, that the reason he lost his job in WWE was because he was openly gay. Orlando Jordan made similar comments, the fact that he felt he was pressured out of WWE because of his sexuality, and his own boyfriend was threatened by Ric Flair in TNA, and that's why that he then left TNA and wouldn't work with them anymore. It's very, very difficult, and I think it's a fascinating topic with regards to what the rights and wrongs in it. But okay, let's change gears slightly. Would you ever see one of these guys playing some kind of gay or lesbian or bisexual gimmick in the main event?
No.
Could you imagine, I'm not just saying Goldust, I'm just saying, could you imagine anyone portraying a gay gimmick and headlining WrestleMania?
No.
Why? Why is that? No. What difference does it make? If John Cena came out tomorrow and said he was gay...
Yeah, no, you're right. You're completely right. But I think and I'm not going to use the term wrestling fans because it's not just us.
Yeah.
I think in any field, whether that's a sport or the NBA or the NHL or the NFL or rugby or football, TV, whatever, for some reason, you wouldn't buy it. You wouldn't want to see it. And it doesn't. That's not homophobia speaking. I think that's something that we've all been trained to think, and pop culture and media culture that is out there in some of the mainstream media and the newspapers and the TV and radio and God knows what else. It's trained you to believe that's wrong.
Yeah.
That you don't want to see that.
Yeah, that's something behind
That's
closed
not right.
doors.
That should be, kept well away and the door shut and you're not involved. And even in some areas, and like I said, they could be perceived. Some people consider it to be dirty.
Yeah, and it's not, in my opinion. But
no, it's not.
Yeah, but a lot of people have that kind of perception that it's a dirty thing. And again, to help Barney's put a question in the chat room. I like it. Why is being gay / lesbian being used as a character? And that is a great question. Why? Do we need that to be used as a character?
Does it come down desperation on behalf of a creative team?
Yes.
That they cannot come up with a character unless that involves sexuality.
We got Orlando Jordan. Well, we know all the smart marks know he's gay. Or sorry, he's bi. I believe he was bi, not gay. All the smart marks know he's bi. Well, let's use that. They say that. I suppose we always say as fans, the best characters are extensions of your own personality.
Yeah,
Stone Cold Steve Austin was a redneck.
You times it by 5.
Yeah, you turn the volume up. But does that mean that kind of part of their character should be on portrayed on TV for everyone to see?
No.
I don't think it should be. But then again, the flip side of the coin is, who else is better to play that kind of character?
Well, I'm going to go to one of the Facebook comments.
Yeah, which we had loads.
Which we did have, and thank you for that. And I want to read this one. It's from Nathaniel Steele. Being gay, I think having a straight guy act gay is a little insulting, as I can be positive he will portray a gay guy as a flamboyant individual, when fact is we're not all raving homosexuals. I drink beer, scratch my ass, rearrange my balls, and even though a little weedy looking, can hold my own in a fight. So think it's going to last all of 5 minutes.
That is actually a very good point. It's nice to get the kind of like the flip side guy from someone who is openly gay about it, and it's almost like this stereotypical side of it. Okay, let's change gears again slightly. From a straight person's point of view, we don't get up in arms when we see the typical straight guy being portrayed as a beer drinking, arse scratching, ball arranging kind of thing. We don't. That's all wrong.
Because that's the culture. That's what we've been brought up to believe is right. A redneck. That's what a redneck is. But what's the difference?
That's my point. Why is that okay and accepted? And that one's not. It comes down to characters. But then are we saying we should have no characters in wrestling?
Well, Sybil's put a good thing. I think it should and could be used as a strength and someone to look up to.
It's putting that kind of
positive spin on it?
Yeah, positive spin on it, but also giving that kind of like icon. Look, could you imagine, right, to the WWE Universe, John Cena or Randy Orton came out as gay? Here is our gay icon. Glad would jump all over it and be very, very positive about it, and quite rightly too.
I want to talk about Glad.
Okay, go on.
I really want to talk about Glad. They've been very, anti-WWE. WWE did the whole thing. Remember the lesbian alliance?
Yes.
That they brought out. Glad got all over them for that.
Yeah, they mean hot lesbian action.
Hot lesbian action.
LA.
Yeah, that's it. Glad got all over.
Isn't that similar to Hustle, Loyalty?
Admiration.
Hot that's HLR. Carry on, sorry.
Okay, but Glad's also got back in on the WWE because of comments that CM Punk made in Australia to that fan who was at ringside in Sydney.
We had the video on our Facebook group a little while ago.
So my question to you is, how can the WWE, who claim to be a PG environment, okay, do a storyline potentially where Drew McIntyre, whoever it's going to be, is hitting on, flirting with blokes and that sort of stuff? How are they going to do it without Glad coming down on their backs? But yet WWE have said, we stand out and support the work of Glad. So in all fairness, is the WWE being hypocritical to themselves and are glad being hypocritical for supporting the WWE when they're doing these type of storylines, which in fact is going against the principles of the charity.
But it's I think the short answer is yes. And in the simple being the fact that it's very easy to say one thing and do something else. WWE says one thing for good publicity, to make themselves to get them out of possibly a legal minefield. Now I know they got a lot of grief as Tax put in the chat room in the Billy and Chuck thing. They sent a gravy boat for the wedding present.
Yeah, Tax put that in. Yeah,
they were suckered. I mean, as Tax, they were really suckered in on that. And they believed it.
Do you think
naivety, if you want my honest opinion, when you think about it, because it's wrestling?
But do you think Vince McMahon is sitting there, in the back with his stooges, whatever you want to call them, his creative team, and kind of having a little bit of a chuckle to himself, thinking, "I got them." Is it all about stroking McMahon's ego? And again, great point by House Bunny. WWE would have Drew mocked on TV so much for the anti-bullying campaign.
Exactly. Now, there's also, when you think about it, but conversely against WWE, is someone put in the chat room, and I apologise, it's gone off screen now. Pat Patterson, openly gay for years, well known in the locker room, and he never denied it. Now there's all kind of rumours flying around, from about the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan. I'm not going to get into them because it's all hearsay. But WWE has, in one case, embraces it. No, we never saw Pat Patterson doing a flamboyant gay gimmick, did we?
No.
But
Adrian Adonis.
Yeah, I put down Gorgeous George. You want to go back even further. It's always been there, but it's always been a straight guy doing it. What about if a gay guy actually played it and was allowed to play it properly? I guarantee you, because most gay guys, and probably lesbian women, most gay guys don't wander around in bright pink trousers.
It's a stereotype.
With their fingers stuck out drinking martinis. Most lesbian women don't have crew cut haircuts and
wear jeans
and Doc Martens.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's a stereotypical view, and I think in some ways we're very backward as a society in terms of recognising that. I mean, people still say it's a disease if you're gay or lesbian, and we know it's not. It's it's a gene thing. It happens. But what's right or wrong? What's normal? What's not? Are we and I don't mean to sound really hypocritical, and I don't mean to sound gittish or pardon the pun. I know we're a PG show.
Yeah.
But to a gay or a lesbian, are we normal because we're straight? Do you know what I mean?
Wow, that's a whole different conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, but do you know what I mean? We're perceiving it from a straight point of view.
Yes.
Yeah? But they got their own opinions.
Yeah.
So what we could be doing could be deeply offended to them. Whereas they could be sat there thinking, should a straight man be world heavyweight champion? Playing an openly gay character. Or why isn't the gay man being the WWE world champion or TNA world champion or captain of the England football team?
Why is the majority of the world champions white?
That's a completely different argument. But you see what I mean? There's always two sides to every story, and we're looking at this from the straight perspective.
Yep.
Not meaning to say, punning the pun, we are looking at it in a straight man's perspective. But there's two sides.
It's sorry, Buzz has put in the chat room, in 2004 Canyon suggested that Sexuality be used as a character, but Vince and TNA both refused to touch it, which is interesting.
Papa Shango's put in the chat room, the way society is, if a wrestler is openly gay, the crowd will give them massive abuse, so any gay character has to be a heel because the crowd in general will be uncomfortable with them.
I don't agree with that, and the reason I say is because I think society has changed. It's more acceptable to be gay, straight, bi, or whatever.
I think if you were in the Mid-South,
or
you were in WCCW's territory back in the day, and it was 70s, 80s, even the early 90s to a degree, I think that comment would have been
spot
relevant.
On. Yeah.
I think in today's era, in today's modern society, in your 2000s, in your PGs, in the 21st century, that if anybody dared to share that sort of attitude or that sort of reaction, you'd instantly be thrown over hot coals. Times have changed.
Okay, different question, but on the same vein. Is it more acceptable to have a gay character or a lesbian character than it is acceptable to have a bi character? My point is, was Rico or Goldust more accepted than Orlando Jordan was in TNA because he was bi? But is the bi thing more scary? In our kind of air quotes and comments, does that cause more issues?
Maybe
than
because
being straight out gay.
I don't know. I suppose maybe it could be when you look at it that way, because if you're straight out gay, you know which way the wind sails.
Yeah.
But if you're not, you don't know. And I suppose people find that to be a bit of a threat. You know, who are you? You know, general perception could be no one's safe if you want to look at it in that way.
I mean, Smelly Mays put in the chat room, Rico was a joke, though. Yeah, he was a joke, but to the general casual audience, to the younger audience, which WWE is caters towards,
well,
what kind of questions does that throw up?
Exactly. But Scotty 220, sexuality, race, religion, etc. It shouldn't matter when it comes to who's on top. Everyone is equal.
But I suppose the argument is it comes back to your ring work. But in a sport, and I use that in air quotes, which is fake and is all predetermined.
Yeah.
It doesn't just come down to that.
Okay, so you've mentioned the Orlando Jordan character.
Yep.
You mentioned it being bi. So I think it's Spanner who's put it in the chat room. I thought that was because it was creepy because of the milk thing. Do you think, though...
Manipulation thing, yeah.
You know, do you think that sometimes, if you're an openly gay wrestler or a bisexual wrestler or anything like that, that actually it's your attitude doesn't do you any favours and it kind of typecasts you? Because Orlando Jordan was out there. You know, he's completely out there. We know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw the way he was treated in the WWE locker room. We've heard reports about the way he acted backstage. We heard the way he acted backstage at TNA. Half of that storyline that he had in the ring was him.
Yeah.
It was his idea. So do you think, though, that in some cases, actually, the gay people, the bi people, whatever it is in the US and those companies, actually don't do themselves any favour by coming out in that sort of gimmick? But on the flip side of that, if you had someone come out dressed as a punk rocker with the mohawk and the makeup or a goth or anything like that...
Shannon Moore.
Would we mock them or release them for that?
No. And if someone is gay, bi, lesbian, should they not be allowed to portray themselves how they want to be portrayed? I've got a couple of gay friends. One of them, you wouldn't know. Not that there's a sort of label, but, you know, one of them doesn't play a stereotypical which everyone's got in their mindset. Another guy I know, lovely guy, but yes, he's very flamboyant. I don't think the word is used is camp, whatever. He's very much like that, and you immediately think. Conversely, I know blokes, and I've met, who I thought, because they're very camp, very flamboyant, were gay. They're not. They're straight. It's this perception. It's the perception of the way you view people.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's such an open-ended topic that... And
also, as I think someone put in the chat room about the fact that they push this PG product in WWE. How does Drew McIntyre fit into that? Do you know, I think I could go on to kids at school nowadays. You know, they know more about sexuality and that kind of stuff. They get a lot more sex ed topics early. You know, my little boy, he's 7. He knows about gays.
But then is that a good thing? Because it's
I don't know.
But no, but I don't mean it. No, okay. I think you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no, I'm agreeing with you. Yeah.
Is it a good thing because of the fact that your understanding about differences in people and their behaviours and their attitude, and they're not coming home one day and going, "Oh, mummy and daddy, I saw 2 men kissing in the middle of the park," or something like that. What does it mean? They're actually getting an understanding of it. Is that something that we didn't get when we were kids? Because when you and I were youngsters, you know, it was such a taboo subject.
Oh, totally.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you and I cannot sit here as 30-year-old men and turn around and say that we were taught at school what it meant.
I don't. I mean, my sex education obviously was a long time ago, but I don't recall the sex education being anything to do with same-sex or you know, relations at all. It was all, you know, man on women, women on man, whatever. You know, there was never any discussion of what if a man finds another man attractive, or a woman finds another woman attractive.
Yeah.
That wasn't really discussed. And I still remember when one of my oldest friends came out to me, and I was 18. So we're talking 14 years ago now. That was actually quite a shock. Not because I was bothered, but it was it was unusual in that time. But now, it's not unusual.
But did your opinion or perception of your friend change when he came out to you?
I think it did, but not because... Not in a bad way. Not that I actually hold it against him, but I think you think more about things. And at least to begin with, because he was the only one I knew. But now, as I've got older and you've grown up and you mature, it becomes more acceptable in society, and it's more in the press, and you understand more about it. The fear's not there.
Spanners point in the chat room. We've not seen the gimmick on TV yet. We may be overreacting to this, and yes, we may be. And this isn't.
It's not
this
about
isn't
Drew.
just linking it to Drew just because of the fact that this came out. This is just a general discussion on the characters such as Goldust. I mean, wrestling politician, pastor of wrestling, has put us TWS, Lenny and Lodi in WCW.
Yeah.
And that to me was a far more extreme example than Billy and Chuck or even Goldust.
Yeah, that was late 2000s, I think. The Lenny and Lodi,
late 99, early 2000s, I think. Yeah,
because they had Miss Hancock chasing them as it was, and that was I do remember that tag team. Not a bad tag team actually, but
No,
they
quite
got
good.
labeled with a bad gimmick.
Smelly Melly, it's really ridiculously ironic that companies like to make out they are willing to accept homosexuality, but then they just make a mockery of it. They get someone who is gay to fall into a cookie cut type of mould of what they think a gay person is meant.
Yeah, and we are looking at this too much, but I think just sexuality in wrestling is interesting how they portray these gimmicks over the years, and we haven't had, to be fair, in WWE a gay character or bisexual character since Rico. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, there hasn't.
And he left like 2005
Yeah, something like that.
kind of time. So we're talking 5-6 years. Oh
Yeah.
God, it's 2012 now, aren't we? So 7 years.
I mean, it's an interesting subject, one that I think could be taken in so many different directions, and at some point you have to kind of like put a line under it and work out where the right point is to stop.
The only good thing about this with Drew is it may mean he may now start winning some matches on TV.
But Willie,
We don't know until it actually comes out.
I think with Drew, looking back on Drew's career, if you want to take this to Drew, I think it's too late in the day for Drew Galloway. Whatever they repackage him as, whether it was just his Playboy, whether it's a mixed martial arts fighter, whether it's Goldust's cousin, it's too late. They've done too much damage to Drew now to kind of rebuild that character, and I don't think you can give him the best gimmick in the world. You give him a Hulk Hogan gimmick. You give him a John Cena gimmick. You can make him the most over guy in the company. He'd still be released.
Well, we'll find out very shortly with regards to the firing. I would have thought in the next couple of weeks. I wouldn't surprise me if he had something to do with that Teddy Long match at Mania. GM versus GM match.
Team of Laurinaitis.
Or maybe a run-in. Something like that to cost Teddy Long the match. I don't know. Whatever. We will find out, I'm sure, in the next couple of weeks. We are going to go and take our last commercial break of the evening. When we come back, we've got Brian Kendrick still to discuss. We've got loads of WrestleMania news to discuss. Plus, we've got our WrestleMania news to release about when we're going to be on the air over WrestleMania weekend. So stay tuned. We will be right back after this.